Well, India powering past global trade uncertainties, surprising markets with an 8.2% on-year growth in the second quarter, beating expectations for growth of 7.8% and reinforcing its position as the fastest growing major economy. For more, we have Rebecca Bundhun covering the story live for CNA from Mumbai. Rebecca, what drove this growth?
Economists say that this growth of 8.2%, which is a very, very strong figure indeed in the July to September quarter, was driven by consumer spending, but also the front-loading of production and exports ahead of the festive season and ahead of those higher US tariffs that came into effect at the end of August. And this was reflected in the manufacturing figure that we see in this new set of data, which came in at 9.1% in that quarter, which is very high indeed. Now, how sustainable is this kind of growth of over 8%, which is about 1 percentage point higher than many economists were forecasting? And the short answer is it's not very sustainable at all. Now, that's partly because there are still those headwinds that come from those punitive US tariffs. And also this kind of growth just is very, very, very difficult to maintain, economists are saying. However, they are still favourable on the outlook. They are still saying that there are positive signs in terms of consumer spending. It's just that we might see slightly slower growth figures in the coming quarters.
Rebecca, positive on consumer spending and also reports suggesting benign inflation numbers as well. Is the government likely to be adjusting both fiscal and monetary policies to assure, as far as possible, relatively sustained growth in the quarters ahead?
So, towards the end of September, the Modi government overhauled the goods and services tax system in India, which actually resulted in taxes coming down on most everyday products. And that was an effort to try to mitigate the impact of these US tariffs and boost consumer spending. However, that's not really reflected in this latest set of data, which goes up to the end of September. So we'll only see the impact of that in the next set of data and in the coming months. So that's something that's already there, and the full impact of that has yet to be seen. Of course, there are also still discussions going on around those US tariffs, and hopes are still there in terms of a trade deal eventually being reached. Now, next week, we also have the RBI, the central bank in India, making its latest interest rate decision. And there are widespread expectations that it will cut rates as it tries to maintain this kind of growth momentum. And given the fact that there is that benign, very subdued inflation at the moment, which gives it that scope to cut interest rates. And that will be watched very, very closely next week.
Oh, thanks. Rebecca Bundhun in Mumbai, there covering the story for CNA, looking at the 8.2% on-year growth figure out of India.